Okay, belts. What I think belts is a classic example of is just finding a little topic and kind of just dissecting it away. The irony, I think, is that the belt that started this chunk, which was essentially one that I just saw was worn away by wear and tear, is actually the one I ended up wearing in the special because if you recall, I flew from Boston and you guys flew from New York to Columbus. And so that belt, that ugly belt, is the one I'm wearing in the Netflix special.
Even though it wasn't the new belt that you're referring to.
Right.
It was the old belt. An interesting thing about the belt story is that originally I thought the belt should have been the torturing device on Game of Thrones.
Yes.
And you changed it to the belt was tortured on Game of Thrones.
Yes.
And I'm like, no, it was the torturing. It was used to torture people on Game of Thrones. And you're like, no, it was tortured on Game of Thrones.
It was torture. It's
and
more
you,
of a
of course,
victim.
won. Yeah, it was a victim.
Yes.
And you won, and you were right.
And, so then the belt thing segued into suspenders. And the Santa belt, I like to think the Santa belt was inspired by the time that I played Santa on that Sesame Street special. But I think it was before that. I mean, I think we've always been, Santa is just such an interesting, we tried to do all these jokes about how Santa is the only fat guy. Like if he wasn't giving away presents, he would be on like the Maury Povich show. And people would be like, you got to lose weight, loser. You know what I mean? So Santa has always been kind of like this ripe target.
He was the last time that, people were like, oh, he's the jolly guy.
Yeah.
Like people don't call him fat, they call him jolly.
He's the last remnant of a respectful fat man. And so then...
it was the wider the belt, the greater the illusion.
Yes.
And Santa's belt is very wide.
Yes, it's like a conveyor belt. And then, of course, we get into... We're mixing in science in some of these, like with the suspenders. I love the idea of a suspension bridge.
Yeah, definitely the suspenders and the
then
bridge.
I remember one thing that we kind of debated over was every action has an equal opposite reaction. That was something that when we would tour, you would bring that up after every show.
Right, because the belt is ironically supposed to keep up the pants, but then when your gut gets too big, it just starts to drag them down. So it's kind of very scientific, as is the equator.
Yes, it's I'm very smart. Or you are.
Or we work together well. I don't know. One of them.